Today we're going to review plants, but before we do that, we're going to go through the levels of organization to review that and relate the parts of the plant that we're going to be talking about to the levels of organization. So remember that atoms is the smallest level of organization. Atoms make up molecules, molecules make up organelles, organelles make up cells, cells make up tissue, tissues make up organs, organs make up organ systems, and organ systems make up organisms. So if we go back here, the molecule that we're going to discuss with plants is glucose. Glucose is the type of chemical energy that plants make through photosynthesis. This molecule is produced by the chloroplast with the help of sunlight and water and carbon dioxide. The chloroplast is located inside of a plant cell. Plant cells come together to make up tissue. A type of tissue that can be found in plants is called vascular tissue. We'll talk about that today. Vascular tissue comes together to form an organ. You can find vascular tissue in the stem, leaves, and roots of a plant. Those are all organs of the plant. These organs come together to make up the system, like the vascular system or the reproductive system in plants, and then the organism, of course, would be a whole organism that is a plant, like a rose or a tree. Here's a cross-section of a plant cell. Let's just review a couple of parts that the plant cell has that are different from animal cells. Both plant and animal cells, remember, are eukaryotic. They have a nucleus in their cells that contain the genetic material. Plant cells have a cell wall, which is different from animal cells that surrounds the cell membrane, and they also have chloroplast. The chloroplast are the little green organelles that contain chlorophyll that help the plant cell make chemical energy from sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide. Okay, the organs that we're going to discuss today are flowers. We're going to start with the flower. We're going to go into leaves, stems, and then the roots. So we're going to start from the top of the plant and work our way down. Now, not all plants have flowers, but for time's sake, we're just going to say that all of them do. Okay, so what do plants do? Well, all plants are alike in one way. They all need three things in order to survive. They need water, they need carbon dioxide, and they need energy from the sun so that they can make glucose and oxygen, which is what we actually need to breathe in. The organs of the plant work together to achieve important processes, so we're going to talk about some interactions that occur among your plant systems. And we know that plants must also be able to reproduce, so that's where the flower comes in. What do plants use these three things for? Well, remember, plants produce glucose through the process of photosynthesis. Okay, so on your handout, you'll need to fill in some notes here as I'm going through. Flowers, we're going to start with the top of the plant and work our way through. We're going to talk about some structures in the flower, and we're going to talk about the functions of those structures. Remember that structure determines the function. So the anther is a male portion of the plant, and it produces pollen. Pollen is an actual gamete or sex cell, so it's kind of like plant sperm. The stigma and style, that's actually part of the female portion of the plant, and this is where the pollen lands, and the style transports it to the ovary. You can remember that this is the portion of the female part of the plant because girls are stylish, so the style is part of the female portion of the plant. And then, of course, the ovary contains the gametes, which are called eggs. So pollen is like sperm, and then eggs are found in the ovary. Here's a picture of a plant, of a flower, a perfect flower that has both female and male parts. And you may see something like this show up on the test. So let's walk through real quick. This portion right here, the stigma, the style, and the ovary, together is called the carpel or the pistil, and that's the female portion of the plant. And then over here we have our anther and our filament. That's the male portion of the plant, which is called the stamen when you put those two structures together. The way you can remember that this is the male portion of the plant is it has the word men in it. So stamen is the male portion, and then the carpel is the pistil is the female portion. Okay. The next thing that we're going to talk about are the leaves. We're going to talk about the layers of the leaf. This is where photosynthesis takes place. So here's a cross-section of a leaf. This is where you can find most of your chloroplasts. So this is where your photosynthesis will take place. The layers of the leaves also contain a very important structure called a stomata. The stomata is used to prevent, it's actually for gas exchange, but it opens and closes to prevent water loss when the sun is out. Okay, so let's pull this back up here. This is the stoma. It's an opening that you can find on the bottom of leaves, and when they're open it allows for gas exchange so that carbon dioxide can come in and oxygen can come out. Okay, the stems, there's two portions of the stem that you need to know. The xylem and the phloem. This is your vascular tissue that we talked about. The xylem is a tube that carries water from the roots to the leaves for photosynthesis. So remember, photosynthesis requires water, and they get that from the roots that absorb it and carry it up through the xylem with the help of lots of different things. And then the phloem, these are tubes that carry sugar from the leaves to other parts of the plant. So remember that the leaves produce glucose through photosynthesis, and then once that glucose is made, the phloem carries it down from the leaves into the rest of the plant. Which animal body system is the stem in a plant similar to? Well, this is where we have most of our vascular tissue. So if you think of this like a transport system, so in our bodies we have the circulatory system, our blood vessels that carry nutrients and gases all over the body. So the xylem and phloem together as vascular tissue, it's a vascular system, kind of act like the circulatory system in humans or in animals. Okay, here's your xylem. It's carrying water up from the roots to up the plant to the other parts, and then the phloem, notice, is carrying food down. So remember, phloem and food kind of sound the same. Food and glucose are the same thing, sugar molecules. Okay. Last structure we're going to talk about are the roots. So roots contain some specialized structures you need to know. Root hairs actually increase surface area so that we can absorb water and nutrients more efficiently. And the root tip is actually where you're going to see a lot of cell growth. Remember, mitosis is a type of cell division that helps us grow and repair. So the root tip is a very important piece because it's where the cells are growing and reproducing through mitosis. Okay, why do roots grow down while stems grow up? Well, this is something called gravitropism, where the plant just knows the shoots grow up and the roots grow down. So that the roots can absorb water and the shoots can eventually produce leaves that will eventually photosynthesize. What process have we discussed this year? That is the movement of water like in roots. So how does water get into the roots? Well, that is osmosis. Okay, let's review a couple of things here. So we know that plants produce glucose through photosynthesis with the help of sunlight. So sunlight goes in, carbon dioxide goes in, and then water, of course, comes up into the roots and travels up the xylem. Remember the xylem. Carries water up the plant, and water actually will transpire or leave the leaves through the stomata. Remember, we talked about the openings in the bottoms of the leaves called stomata for gas exchange. Well, water is also lost through transpiration here as well. So water goes in, sunlight goes in, carbon dioxide goes in, and we get all those nice things together, and inside of the chloroplast we can produce sugar. Once that sugar is made, then it travels down the phloem to get to the rest of the plant. So remember that the xylem and phloem are your vascular tissue. These tissues can carry other things like minerals and hormones. All of these systems are interacting together to help maintain homeostasis within the plant. So it's important to remember those things. One thing that plants produce that's important to us, remember, is once photosynthesis occurs and we make glucose, we actually make oxygen, which is exchanged with the atmosphere there through the stomata as well. So don't forget about the stomata. being the openings for gas exchange and for water loss. And remember that all of our systems are interacting together through transport in the plant. And the two things that transport things in plants are the xylem and the phloem.